Hello everyone, welcome back to the Real Queen Nefertiti 33 channel. I am Tatiana. I'm here with some more articles for today. Okay, I'm very excited for the articles. I'm excited for all my work days for some reason. Yes, gotta get it out. Okay, so we'll be talking about the sword of David. I am so excited. I done got it back, y'all. The sword of David is not the other one with, the grim sleeper and Goliath. This one is about the key to lock the tapes. I'm so happy. I had it at first because, I was going up the pyramid scheme. I got it, but I lost it in 2017. But I'm getting it back in 2025. So I am so excited. So let's begin. If you don't know what the sword of David is, this is what it is. The sword of David refers to both a sword wielded by the biblical figure David and a fictional action thriller novel by Charles Lishman. The novel follows an Israeli commando on a global quest to find the Ten Commandments and stop a terrorist plot. Encountering the sword of David along the way. Here's a more detailed explanation. Biblical context. In the biblical story of David and Goliath, now I got both of them. I even got the sword of David for Goliath now. Okay, so don't test me, because I will pull it on you. And there's a lot that's in here right now, because my teeth is hurting. Okay, really bad. Okay, and I'm finna get the other one. This time the first one though, okay? In the biblical story of David and Goliath, David defeats the giant Goliath by losing a slingshot and then taking Goliath's sword to decapitate him. Fictional novel. Now this is the one for the tapes, all of them, CDs and everything. Okay, so don't get it twisted now, okay? Phones and all. The novel The Sword of David by Charles Lishman is a high-action thriller that features an Israeli commando, Shane Clean, who discovers the Ark of the Covenant and must then find the Ten Commandments. Plot summary. Clean, a former IDF officer and archaeologist, embarks on a journey to Ethiopia, London, Paris, and Rome to find the Ten Commandments and stop a global terrorist attack. Key characters. The novel features characters like Fonzie, a terrorist trained by Carlos the Jackal, Mose against Galit, and Clean sidekick Dan Beer. Sword of David in the novel. The Sword of David is a mystical and awe-inspiring weapon that Clean comes across during his journey. Amen. Themes. The novel explores themes of faith, destiny, and the fight against terrorism. Okay? Repercus. See, you ain't lying, okay? They be losing that to kill me, you know what I'm saying? Cause I am a terrorist on my mugshot. I am labeled terrorist. FBI most wanted, okay? Okay? On both sides. Not really on the FBI on the real one, but on the fake one, yes. Replicas. There are many replicas of the Sword of David available for purchase, often featuring a Star of David and other decorated elements. Okay? So that's the Sword of David, and this is the article that I found, okay? This is titled, The Secret of King David's Sword. The Western world is trying to instill national feelings into their societies by creating mythological heroes. Although the Celtic-born British King Arthur and his legendary sword Ichabod are just legends, dozens of books and movies have been trying to keep this legend alive for centuries. We have a true story. No one is trying to unravel the secret of the sword of Prophet David, which had been in Topkapi Palace for hundreds of years. This sword, which will shed light on history with the pictures and writings on it, is waiting for the time when it will attract attention from historians. Topkapi Palace, which was once the administration center of the world and has maintained these characteristics for centuries, today it is the Topkapi Palace Museum in Istanbul, one of the spiritual capitals of the world on the ridge of Sarabun. This museum is preserving the sacred relics section that have been keeping its mystery for years. Its secret has hunted many researchers over the years, but no one had yet been able to solve it. We are talking about the sword attributed to the prophet David and his epical written with a kind of crypto method. You ain't lying. The real ones don't understand, but the ones that's on the team, they do. So, the interesting thing is that the inscription mentions not only what happened to the sword in the past, but also what will happen in the future. Amen. Some of the prophecies have come true. It was prophesied in writing 30 years ago that the Ottomans, YALL, Sultan Selim period, will conquer Egypt, and the conquest of Egypt is one of the prophecies that came true in its inscription. The inscription also informs the end of Ottoman Empire. You ain't lying. But the real question for us is whether the great prophecy about the future will come true. How the adventure of the sword began first comes to the fore in the book titled Hikar Asadeh Sacred Realistic and Imak Sacred Realistics, written by Tashin Oz, the former director of the Topkapi Palace Museum, and published in 1953. A sword unmatched by precedents, unlikely to be found. Let us quote exactly what Tashin Oz, the former museum director, wrote about the sword in his Ithapa on pages 38 and 39 of this book. At the time, this sword was open for inventory. Exactly. Inventory. That's all. That's all you need it for. Recruiting. No more recruiting. No more recruiting, okay? It's over. You either gonna die right now or you're gonna go sit over there on the other side. This is what your God has to say. No in-betweens. Okay? Anyways, the sword had a thicker layer of rust than other swords. When it was clean, human images and writings was found on it, and it appeared that these was real. The hilt of the sword is covered with black leather on wood, and the cross guard is made of iron. Its length is 101 inches. The base is wide and the two edges are sharp and the tip is pointed. There's a picture of a person near the hilt of the base, holding a sword in one hand and a head in the other. There is an Arabic line under it, which is well deserved, and among the writings there is another type of writing, perhaps Nabati, whose type we cannot determine. In the last line, the names of David, Solomon, Musa, Haran, Joshua, Zechariah, Yahya, Isa, and Muhammad can be read. The iron of this sword is made of white metal, and it is extremely sharp and has a characteristic that cannot be matched. However, it was impossible to determine its nature from the partially readable writings on it. After a while the works in the palace warehouse called the Eminent Treasure were being classified, a copper inscription caught our attention because it had the same pictures on the sword. One side of this inscription was in Arabic with 32 lines, and 28 lines on the other side was in the aforementioned font. The picture here was more obvious than the sword. Okay. Head of the inscription of the sword. After giving this technical information about the sword and its inscription, Tashin Oz goes to the summary of the inscription. This is where the real oddities come together. On one side of this strange inscription, there is a figure holding a sword in one hand and a severe head in the other hand, similar to the sword as seen in the picture. However, there are major differences between them that seem small. It is as follows. The pictures of the man with the sword, it is understood that this picture represents Prophet David, has a funnel-shaped cone on his head, while the figure in the inscription has two horns on his head. When this situation is evaluated together with the feet of the figure, it is clearly understood that this picture represents a genie. Because the two figures that look alike, the feet of the demon, that is for show, are not actually feet but the letter T-I in Arabic. When the letters T-I are excluded from the picture, the genie's legs are bent backwards. The picture looks like a talisman when evaluated together with the verse below. Perhaps the sword was made as a protective talisman. Yes. Picture was part of the sword. The figure holding a sword in one hand and a severe head in the other. The cut head is slightly faint. Yes, I am. And depicting the event of Prophet David killing Goliath is depicted on the sword. On the face of the copper inscription with a genie picture, a text that cannot be understood in which language and alphabet draws attention, anyone familiar with occult sciences can understand that these writings, which Tashin Bey, the former director of the museum, said may be Nefertiti or Talmudic writings about demons. Historians are well aware of the genie issue. Therefore, Tashin Bey may have guessed that these writings were jinn, but he did not want to express it from his book, which he wrote in an academic and official style because this is a metaphysical issue. Jinn can be written in many different secret alphabets. We can see the common book characters here both on the sword and in the inscription. The story of Talut and Goliath described in Surah Bakat and the description on the sword and an inscription in the Topkapi Palace Museum draws attention to the same event. And in the inscription of the sword, it is written that the sword will be delivered to the Mahdi. The reverent sections in the book are as follows. Lower part of the inscription. Okay, so that's the first part for you, Jill. Now this part for me, I think. Yes, okay. Ali says, I found this sword and plate in the treasury of Malik Makis, the owner of Egypt. He had a narrative from Prophet David in Sirach in Hebrew. He says, when Goliath became hostile to me, I made a sword and an old arrow as my Lord had taught me. And after the Galilee, God made me victorious. One of the signs of this sword is that on one side there is a person with a sword and a head in his hand, and on the other side a person sitting on the pulpit of the country. That severe head expresses my killing of Goliath, and the one sitting on the pulpit expresses his judgment on Solomon and everything. This blessed sword will reach Prophet Yusuf. After that, Hazrat, it reaches Zachariah, then Yahya, and then Jesus. Then it is presented to the Prophet Muhammad. After his death, he reaches Hazrat, Abu Bakr. Then he inherited his son Muhammad. Okay. Ali bin Abu Talib appoints Muhammad as governor of Egypt. Then he dies. And the sword returns to the treasure of Prophet Yusuf. Then it remains hidden until the 88th year of the Hijrah. Elif will be transferred to Egypt. After the Ottoman states is complete, they will fight until the time of Kufa Mahdi. God bless them. Then the sword will pass to the Mahdi, the owner of the time, amen, and it will reach the prophet Jesus. With him, the one-eyed hypocrite Ibn Isaiah will murder the Dajjal. Allah and his messenger reported them as secret sciences. The strangeness in the copper inscription continues. There's an Arabic text on the back of the inscription, and what it described in this text contains information that seems contradictory at first glance. The mystery of the text, which includes some of the prophecies that have come true, is knotted in a picture of a ship encrypted with the science of Cliffriff. But before that, the point that draws our attention is that there is something strange about saying that Prophet David's sword will reach Prophet Yusuf, because Prophet Yusuf lived and died centuries before Prophet David. How is it the sword reaches other prophets after Prophet Yusuf and returns to Yusuf's treasury this time? It's like talking about a time spiral. You ain't learned? The strangeness of the quantity given to the inscription, which was preserved by the Ottomans for centuries, must have been noticed by the Ottomans immediately, because the traditional religious sciences was always very widespread and developed in the Ottoman Empire. Therefore, it is almost impossible that they not notice the strangeness. You hear me? Moreover, the inscription mentions the completion of the Ottoman Empire, that is, the collapse of the state. At that time, even if anyone said such a thing, it would probably result in my extradition. So why did the Ottoman state preserve and protect these pieces for centuries? That is a separate question that remains a mystery. And that is the article on the Sword of David, okay? Enjoy.